All right, this is my first unprofessional video teaching. Yay! So I'm not going to make it tonight. Hi, everybody that did come. Sorry, I have a house full of grandkids. It's really crazy here right now. So I stepped out to go ahead and record the teaching to help Dee Dee out so she's not just winging it. So the text tonight is coming out of John 6:10. So I titled it, What's Your Position? So in John 6:10, let's turn to that text, right? So we're going to start there. Jesus is speaking, and he says, "Tell everyone to sit down." Jesus said, so they all sat down on the grassy slopes. The men alone numbered about 5,000. Then Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks to God, and distributed to the people. Afterward, he did the same with the fish, and they all ate as much as they wanted. After everyone was full, Jesus told his disciples, "Now gather the leftovers so that nothing is wasted." So they picked up the pieces and filled 12 baskets with scraps left by the people who had eaten from the 5 barley loaves. So, in this, Jesus' position in this story, he was a host, he was a steward, he was a server. In this text, he gave a directive, a simple instruction, so that he could prepare the people to receive something. They had to come under Jesus' order, under his authority. In verse 11, there's different versions, but it says, those who sat received, right? Those who were sitting received. So in verse 11, those who were obedient would not only receive, but would be filled to the fullest, right? He gave them as much as they wanted, up to overflow. So he not only positioned himself as a host, as a steward, as a server, he told the disciples to help position the people to receive. And those who were obedient did that. And he gave them as much as they wanted, right? So, what's your position? Are you in a position to receive from God? Are you in a position to receive, to overflow to the fullest? Okay, that's tonight. That needs to be our mindset. What position are we taking to receive from God? All right, so in Habakkuk 2, let's turn there. Habakkuk 2. Let me get there. Sorry. So in Habakkuk 2, this is Habakkuk speaking, right? He says, "I will climb up to my watchtower and stand at my guard post. There I will wait to see what the Lord says and how he will answer my complaint." So again, positioning ourselves. Habakkuk, he positioned himself. Position ourselves to hear. Are we positioning ourselves to hear? Are we putting ourselves in a position with an expectation? This is what Habakkuk did. He positioned himself to hear from God. He positioned himself with an expectation, right? This is what he says. Listen, he says, "I will climb, I will stand, I will wait." So this is what he did. He was very intentional about positioning himself to receive something from God. He wanted to hear from God. And so he positioned himself so that he could. He stood, he climbed, he stood, he waited. And do we do that? Do we wait on the Lord? Do we position ourselves and just sit and wait so that we can hear something with an expectation to hear it? It's not just about hearing it. It's about, do we position ourselves with an expectation to hear from God? All right. So next we're going to turn to Matthew 20:20. Okay. All right. This is Jesus teaching. He's teaching about this chapter is about teaching about serving others, but I want you to look in this text for a second, though. We're going to look at it from a different perspective. You know me, always looking at something from a different perspective. So it says, Then the mother of James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to Jesus with her sons. She knelt respectfully to ask for a favor. What is your request? He asked. She replied, In your kingdom, please let my 2 sons sit in places of honor next to you, one on your right and the other on your left. But Jesus answered by saying to them, You don't know what you are asking. Are you able to drink from the bitter cup of suffering I am about to drink? So let's go back. The mother of James and John, she came to Jesus. She knelt respectfully, right? She positioned herself. She knelt respectfully to ask for a favor. But her motives weren't quite pure. Okay? And a lot of people don't look at it this way, but this is what the Lord showed me in just this little couple of verses. She positioned herself to ask a favor of Jesus. She walked with Jesus. She discipled with Jesus. She knew Jesus. Okay? But she asked for a favor, and her motives were off. So she was asking for immediate honor for her sons and not employment for the kingdom, right? So her motives were, not pure in that. She's asking for immediate, kingdom status, and her sons didn't know how to serve yet. And Jesus teaches, you can't be in a position of higher up if you haven't learned to serve. If you haven't positioned yourself low and you haven't positioned yourself as a server, humbly, we always say, that you can't lead unless you know how to serve, and that's what leadership is putting yourself in that position humbly, of serving before you lead. Okay. But she wasn't asking in grace. She wasn't asking for something for her sons to further the kingdom. She wanted this high right off the bat status, but she did position herself in a respectful manner to ask Jesus for something, right? Isn't that what we do sometimes? Do we put ourselves in a position, to ask something from him in the wrong motives? Like we want this we want this high status, before we've gotten low, right? Before we've learned to serve, before we've learned humbleness and true humility, and just gaining that kingdom mind. You can't, if you haven't served, and I'm not talking about just serving at A to B. I'm talking about if you don't serve your family, if you don't serve the children, if you don't serve, and I'm talking about not serving them food, not all those things, right? I'm talking about serving them with a godly heart, serving them in a godly manner. If you haven't served in that way, in that capacity, you can put yourself in a respectful position with Jesus all you want, but it's still not the right motives, and so those requests are probably going to get denied, right? So, are you in a position to receive from God? So being in a position to receive from God, it also has to do with our disposition, right? Our motives, okay? Remaining humble, being submitted, having that open heart and open mind, right? Being fully surrendered, okay? 2 Chronicles 20:17. Let's turn there for a second. Oops, I about ripped my Bible. Okay. It says this, and this is, if you haven't read this story, I don't want you to feel like you're lost here. So, this is King Jehoshaphat. Okay, this story is about King Jehoshaphat, and the enemy is closing in on them, and they're surrounding them, and it looks grim, it looks bleak, but the king put himself in a position to hear from God and to receive from God. Okay, so listen to this. 2 Chronicles 20:17. This is the Lord talking to King Jehoshaphat, okay? But you will not even need to fight. Take your positions, then stand still and watch the Lord's victory. He is with you, O people of Judah and Jerusalem. Do not be afraid or discouraged. Go out against them tomorrow, for the Lord is with you. Then King Jehoshaphat bowed low with his face to the ground, and all the people of Judah and Jerusalem did the same, worshiping the Lord. Okay? Judah was surrounded by all sides, right? And the enemy was just pressing in on them, staring them down, and then the king recognizes that God can be the deliverer. So he puts himself in a position to receive, right? Let's see where we at. Okay. King Jehoshaphat, he was humble, right? And he encouraged his people to do the same, right? Because he was leading by example, right? He bowed low with his face to the ground, and all the people did the same because they were watching him. They were watching him put himself in a position to receive from the Lord, to worship the Lord, and so his people, his stewards, right? His sheep, him being a shepherd, they all did the same. So again, it goes back to, are you putting yourself in a position, to serve those around you? And are you living by example? Are you putting yourself in a position to lead by example, to where when you go to worship the Lord, they're going with you. Your people are going with you. Your kids are going with you. Your family is going with you. Your neighbors are going with you, right? So, man, what's your position? What's your position tonight, right? So the king positioned himself. He bowed low, worshiping, so that he could receive the favor of the Lord, right? The blessing, the victory, because that's what God did. He delivered them. The Lord even tells them, go back. The Lord even tells them in verse 17, but you will not even need to fight. Just take your positions. You don't even need to fight. Then stand still and watch the Lord's victory. So when you are humble, when you are completely surrendered to the Lord, and you're putting yourself in a position to receive the favor of God, when you feel like things are just pressing in on you, get low and put yourself in that position to receive the favor. And maybe you'll be just like the king, right? Maybe you'll receive the favor. Maybe you'll receive the blessing. Maybe you'll see the victory once you do that. Once you put yourself in a position, in a humble, rightful position with the Lord, right? So another thing to think about that takes me into this. Are we giving up our position? Okay? Are we giving up our position? Are we forfeiting our blessings? Are we saying, just throwing our hands in the air, and saying, man, I just give up. I can't do this. I've been at it this long. I've been going through this struggle this long, or this job hasn't happened yet, or I haven't, gotten this new car, or whatever it is. Are you giving up too soon? Are you giving up your position? Are you walking away from it? Right? Have we gotten out of line? Right? Have we gotten out of line and out of our position with God? Because when we give up our position, that's what we're doing, right? When we're not staying steadfast, the Lord says, stand still. Take your position, stand still, and watch the Lord's victory, right? So when we do this, when we give up our position, when we get out of line, when we get out of position with God, when we're not completely where we need to be with Him, we leave ourselves exposed to the enemy to devour us. He eats up our blessings, right? He steals our blessings from us. He steals our talents. What if you feel like you're unqualified in something because you're not putting yourself in a position to receive the blessing of that talent that the Lord has given you, right? The enemy wants to steal that from you. But if you stand firm in your position, he can't do that. The enemy wants to steal your reward. He wants to steal your victory. So if you're giving up too soon, if you're throwing your hands in the air and you're forfeiting your blessings, the enemy, he's just waiting. He's waiting right there. He's really quick to come in and just gather it all up, right? Gather it all up. So again, I'm going to ask you tonight, what's your position? What position are you taking? What position are you standing? Are you standing firm? Are you standing firm and right with God? Are you humbling yourself? Are you getting low? Are you worshiping Him so that you can be in a place to receive His favor, to receive His blessings, to receive the victory? So just some food for thought. I love you, ladies, but tonight, think about, what's your position? I love you, ladies. Sorry I couldn't be there, but hey, I hope that you have a great discussion tonight. And I'd really like to hear, how it went, feedback about your thoughts on this. So anyway, love you guys. Gonna sign off. I'm gonna go eat some dinner. Love you.